Good night to our viewers, good night to our guests tonight, good night to everyone out there. Ladies and gentlemen, let me start tonight by giving credit to the Globespan team, Nohar, Kumar, Devin, and all those who are working hard behind the scene to make today's show possible. Viewers out there in Guyana, in the diaspora, the wider world, as the political race quickens in Guyana, we are observing, as we do in every election season, a number of things. We're observing some unfortunate, for example, the undisguised racism that is creeping up. There's a growing intolerance for each other. There are reckless statements by various persons on the campaign trail, and a host of idiosyncrasies that we are seeing taking place all over the country. But it is up to us, the people of Guyana, to pay heed to what racist cause there may be, to pay heed to intolerance or not to pay heed to them. It is up to us, the people, to shun or to embrace negatives. What I would like to remind all is that after the elections, we all still have to live together. We all still have to work together. We all still have to do the things we usually do in making Guyana a better place for not us, but for our sons and daughters of tomorrow. So, viewers, while we are busy looking at what's happening on the campaign trail, listening to reckless statements by various persons on the campaign trail, listening to the host of idiosyncrasies that's happening all over the place. Meanwhile, the oil contracts continue to ensure that oil is produced, and by the same token that Guyana continues to be raped by poor contracts. But back to the politics of the day. If I may be so harsh to say, a few years ago, just a few short years ago, we all decried the abuse of state assets by the last government in their election campaign. Today we are seeing abuse by this government. A few years ago, a short few years ago, we saw the abuse of state media. We saw how government officials ran into the NCN editor's office and abused and threatened people. We are seeing it again. Short few years ago, we saw how the Chronicle was a dirty rag used by the past politicians. Now we are seeing the Chronicle remains a dirty rag being used by present politicians. It is no joke, even though we can smile about it. For many people, the past and the present seem to be the same. It is typified by corruption, nepotism, contractual deficiencies, and a host of other things. And both the past and the present holders of power present themselves for re-election to power. Should we choose them, and why? Specifically, one may ask, why should the APNU AFC, after their proud poor decisions and deficit at the central bank and corrupt deals, why should we trust them again? Why should they host a banner of integrity when their own members cannot file assets with the Integrity Commission? And of course, why should we trust the other side, who have been equally guilty of many things? But there are things that they have all been boasting about, which I will leave to the campaign speeches. But ladies and gentlemen, here tonight to present their case, to present the case of the coalition, to present the case of the APNU AFC, and specifically to speak to policies and strategies, to answer your questions, is David Patterson, the man who has held the portfolio as Minister of Infrastructure and who has been at the helm of the AFC. Minister, welcome to this Globespan program.
Good night, Yo. Good night to all Nohar and the members of Globespan, to your viewers. Pleasure to be here. Like to address it. I obviously would like to, just as you did a really good explanation, I'd also like to start off by saying the perception and reality are two quite different issues. Obviously, some of the comments that you had made, obviously, are as I said, a perception, but as opposed to the reality of what's on the ground. You know, what I mean, we several allegations that I would know from from generally certain allegations have not proven true. This is the era of fake news. This is the era of no one fact checks anything anymore. You know what I mean? And that has been the sad part that has crept into the Guyana politics these days. But I do, as we go on tonight, I probably would have an opportunity to further elaborate on any particular issue that you or your views particularly would like to raise.
Sure. But as we start, tell us a little bit about it's all about the campaign presently. Tell us how the campaign is going. Of course, you must be feeling positive about the feedback from your campaign meetings. But we know rallies can't win an election. How is the campaign going for the AP and US?
Okay, I mean, I would tell you we are very confident. I mean, I think if you get any politician on, they would always say that they're confident. Obviously, I can't say I'm not. But as I started off by saying, 32 days, I mean, always a long time in a campaign. You know, what I mean, 32 days is an eternity for a politician and for the campaign. But so far, so good. I mean, the response on the ground has been well. In the diaspora, I mean, I was there. I just returned this morning, actually. I was in New York, New Jersey, and some other states, you know. And I wasn't just meeting supporters, you know. I mean, I met some persons that sort out us, and their feedback and their impression has been just the same as mine. That the campaign is going well, but obviously it's a long way between here and March the 2nd. So we're just sitting down, telling our supporters and the general public, carrying our message. I mean, I'm trying to encourage my party members, my colleagues, you know, I mean, to carry a positive message. I think the Guyanese electorate are totally by now inundated and probably even a bit fed up to hear all the negativity. So our message, I mean, every time I meet my guys, you tell them what you have planned in store for the next 5 years. They know for themselves what has happened in the last 5, in the last 10, in the last 15, last 23 years. You don't have to keep repeating it. It's a question of our candidates versus their candidates. You know, I mean, obviously, I would think, and I'm sure they would want to say the same, but I would think pound for pound, our candidates are better. We would like to say so. I would like to think so, but obviously, I would say the electorate will be the person who in the end will decide which of the two sides or it's 9 parties contesting, which of the 9 parties they feel is the best person, the best party to move Guyana forward in the next 5 years.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, you did say in your opening remarks, you know, that perception and reality are very different things. But of course, you know, you cannot hope to just sweep. And just before I say anything about this, I must tell you, I remember pre-2015, there are people, independent persons like myself, who were posting things in social media and stuff like that. And we were being called the negaholics, right? We were being called that we were having problems with then government. So it's something that is always going to continue. But you can't just hope to sweep corruption under the rug, can you? I mean, what about the state media? What about the abuse of the state media? It's now just a page of the government. It doesn't present anything about state anymore. It's just part of the APNO AFC coalition party.
Well, I mean, of course, I would totally disagree with you. I mean, that it's just purely AP and UFC media, those things. What you may be concerned is the prominence that the state would have vis-a-vis other parties, when that's something you could think. But I read them. There are more the articles, I mean, about
but let me interject to give you an example. On nomination day, your entire banner, your entire, you know, that flag staff at the top changed to green and yellow. I mean, if that's not being a page of the APNO AFC party, because a government has no color, right?
Yes. Well, I mean, I don't know specifically what you're talking about, but I would have thought that obviously they would have changed for every party. I was actually out there. I didn't actually. I mean, I don't actually look at live feeds when I'm there. Out there with grounding with the supporters who I thought came out overwhelmingly to support us. But you in the media may see these things, but what I saw was an overwhelming support from the grassroots on all ages of persons coming out to support the coalition. So I was proud of that. I didn't see anything, those subliminal messages you're talking about. But there is the broadcast, there's the broadcast association, broadcast community. You should, and that is the thing that I talk about. If that's an issue, you should address it to them. And then see what it is and what they come back. Because they do media monitoring. I know this election, GECON does media monitoring. The international media monitors here. So, and they obviously, the person, if you feel aggrieved, you can report to them rather than making a very wide, broad, sweeping statement saying this is it. And then, of course, I can make broad, sweeping statements because I don't see myself on Channel 28. I don't see myself on 65. I don't see myself on 69. I don't see myself in the Guyana Times other than incredibly bad news.
But there is a difference between private station and public.
But you do not see me coming and complaining and these things like that. My complaints I would send to the media monitoring. There is, I don't see myself on Citizen Report.
But the 2014, 2015 version of David Patterson would not be saying this.
I was never ever on those newspapers anyway.
No, but my point is,
so I will be telling you that the David Patterson I know.
But the David Patterson I know, you voted for $1 for Chronicle and NCN, rightly so, because it should represent the country and not politics, not parties.
No, listen to me. The NCN that I voted $1 for, that the party, but I wasn't in Parliament at the time. The NCN that we voted $1 for was the NCN that used to play budget speech when I was there. At my budget speech, I would be the opening speaker for the AFC and speak at 2 o'clock in 2 p.m. and they played right after To Kill a Mockingbird at 3 a.m. in the morning and then they would come back out with a report and said, well, we've got equal coverage. That's not the NCN of today, because the NCN plays you. The NCN today, obviously. NCN today, but I know they would play you sequentially as you come on. You may there's so many there. When you look and you've seen this thing here, so you are homing in on NCN and those things like that. But when you look at globally, and we do get this, I get this. I write on my computer. I have a media monitoring app, which tells you globally all the media in Guyana, right? Who says what is said and those things like that. When you see NCN's coverage is minuscule compared to all the opposition media, those 11 radio stations given out by Barrett Jagdeo just before he demitted office. 11.
Right.
11. No one mentions that. No one mentions that. But they said,
no. That it's not fair to say that. I have had people on the same program and I have run into them for those same things. So that is not fair to say, not on this platform at least.
No. I'm not. We have an open discussion here, Yoke. So I'm not accusing anybody.
I know. But I can
look at the portal. But Yoke and as a media personality, somebody who does assessments here. When you look at the overall, they are you should know that there are these websites that does analytics, media analytics, and they check social media, TV, television, radio, print media, and those things like that. And when you look at the analytics for the Guyana, right, the PPP, this is the PPP. The analytics, and I have one right up in front of me as you spoke there. So their coverage is 3 times that of the coalition because of the access that they have to several other media.
No, I don't disagree.
You're not saying that. When you're not talking about and everybody. That's why I say it's a perception, reality,
here is my point.
Hold on to small things. We hold on to.
Here's my point.
No,
it's not small.
Freedom Radio.
It is not small.
I've not been invited on Freedom Radio, but you never.
But hold on. Listen, I can say this. I and every viewer out there, we are paying the salaries of Imran Khan and the editor and Enrico Wolford and everybody at NCN. I am not paying the salary for anybody from NTN or any. They're privately owned. But I am contributing to the salaries of the people at state media. And therefore, I feel that as a citizen of Guyana, we must be represented.
One thing I would ask you is that we don't call names on this, right?
That's
because
all right.
we don't call names. Because, I mean, no, I'm a politician, but I don't want to call names. I won't call anyone name unless it's a specific reference and on which I can support. I want to thing here. So, you know, I mean, obviously, you know, that NCN and DPI and those things are state-run things. They are funded by taxpayers' money. But so are other issues. You know what I mean? You know, no one speaks about that. No one speaks about that since we came in, and that's why I say perception. Since we came in, we've put things in place which has made it tremendously difficult. No one can give out 11 radio station licenses in 1 afternoon.
But you didn't do anything about it. I mean, you put together the authority. You nominated persons, which itself got embroiled in some bit of controversies. I remember there was some report you had to get done and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, listen, your government is being evaluated on your own performance, not your performance compared to somebody else's.
I was just starting off. I was starting off perception, reality, context, and those things. You know what I mean? And I'm talking and I'm saying globally, when there's media in Guyana, globally, the other parties, and I say globally as well, has 3 times the amount, and that is proven. That's in front of me there. You go Insight and Analyticals. You mean you think so? You know what I mean? But there are avenues. There are avenues that weren't available when we were in opposition. The Broadcast Authority was not established. So we couldn't give anything. If you remember that the Broadcast Authority was not established in 2014. So you know, there are avenues for you to make these complaints and those things. No one does it, but you know what I mean. You say, well, I mean, and then you complain. I mean,
because you see, again, it goes to our argument about perception and reality. Because you see, in the past, one felt that one could not go to any of these authorities because the people who run these authorities were government appointed. They hold allegiance to their employer. And so I, a private citizen, do not feel empowered. I could take, if I have a complaint about David Patterson, who do I go to? His boss, the president?
So there's the Integrity Commission, the Public Procurement Commission. They've carried me there. There's the Ombudsman. There's a, you know what I mean, whoever there is the bids protest committee. They're all established. Correct. None of these were established in 2014, 2015. You know what I mean? So you have avenues, and the perception reality is you have avenues, you don't employ them. We don't, not you personally. A lot of persons don't employ, they prefer to sit behind
I employ them. I have taken matters to various forums.
Yes, and of course the ultimate method of resolving it. You can go to court. I've been sued.
I can't help but remember. I'm not throwing a stone at you, but I can't help but remember a past president saying, "Where is the evidence reported to the head of the authorities? Where is the evidence of corruption?" But let's move on. You did say that the perception of corruption and all the other stuff is you attributing some of it to fake news. Some may be true, some may be not. But you know, how then you empowered a Soku and a Sarah, and they themselves end up being corrupt based on what we're reading in the newspapers, but you were unable to get any litigation through, make any court cases out of the PPP's alleged corruption. So therefore, would all of that too be fake news?
Well, look, sir, I mean, Soku, which was set up by, when we came to office, Soku was set up by the previous administration when they were trying to ensure that we do not become blacklisted. That organization, the head, the whole body remained intact. I mean, the previous head of Soku was inherited. We never sent him home. He worked and he enjoyed the full confidence of everybody. What we found now, after since we've done the investigation is several of these investigations were compromised, tainted, and obviously we took, if there's somebody appointed a person, and I still do hold, if you appoint a man or a woman or somebody to a position, they will act in a professional manner. What we found now is that things are missing. You know what I mean? I don't know, the so-called same hard drives are missing, files are missing. You know what I mean? There's allegations of wrongdoing against the previous members of the so-called and those things like that. So what we expected, or I speak for myself with the organization, I mean, we got external help from external persons, you know what I mean? Next thing they run into private businesses and those things like that. So I was expecting an independent, robust body to undertake these investigations. What we ended up with now was a body who you're questioning the integrity of their reports, and that's what happened. It's not that there's no corruption. It's that the persons that we invested in and we hoped that would have taken it to the next level, right? Correct. Would have displayed such professionalism and be of such had such integrity to move it. But when it's not, obviously, you know, I mean, it taints your case. I mean, so you may say to us that we haven't been able to prove anything. All the evidence there, but when the person that is presenting the evidence is called into question, it undermines your case. You know, and you know, we have several good lawyers on all around us. So it's no use carrying a case where the foundation, the person, the mason that is laying the bricks, the masons and the builders that are laying the bricks.
But you see, I must belabor this point, because look, there was a lot of confidence when your government chose to bring in a foreign consultant to advise, to shape that whole SOCU, that whole, you know, investigative arm and stuff like that. But, you know, I blame the government. If you are going to appoint the people who are going to investigate these things, I mean, look, can you, the government, bring action against SOCU and Sarah and all these people for not doing what they're supposed to do? You can't. No, you can only take action at the legislative level.
Yo, in all due respect, when someone offers you help and they provide you with a expert, right? And this is an international agency, and they come.
No, that was good, you know. That was good that you
took that. So you took it at face value. I know for sure. One thing I can tell you for sure, that this government never ever did anything to impede the investigation and so forth. Because we were hoping, because obviously we knew and we knew exactly that any actions taken by SOCU, any prosecutions brought by SOCU, it would be looked in tinted eyes if the government had a hand in it. So we said, fair enough. What are the equipment you need? What are the support you need? We went to our partners, international partners, and they provided us with that. And we said, fair enough. Go SOCU, build your independent case. Unfortunately, as I said, when it found out that the builders of the independent case did so with shaky mortar.
Right, but can we not take them to court?
Yes, we can.
I mean, but they have wasted billions of Guyanese taxpayers' money.
I'm not sure, but the evidence remains there, and that is a good thing. The evidence remains there. You can't look. There are incredibly rich people in this country. And that is not no. They are incredible.
I think a lot of them in government, right?
Not as yet, not at all. Not at all. Everybody, well, I mean, I can tell you, everybody in government I know, most came from working and private sector and working. They're incredibly rich people in this country, and they remain rich. Mm-hmm. And you know, some of them. I mean, some of them are thick as planks. Mm-hmm. You know, you can't. Some of them are semi-literate. Some of them, you know, you can't even find any sort of schooling to back up their wealth, and right. You know, but they still remain there.
Right, but you see that's where a lot of us have found a big bugbear with this government. So you had a report done, you had the unit set up that looks at anti-money enforcing anti-money laundering legislation. You had units set up that looks at suspicious transaction and suspicious person. But over almost 5 years, nothing. nothing tangible has happened for the billions of dollars we, the Guyanese people, have invested in you. Not you personally, you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, of course, I assume that you mean the government, but so separate two things, you separate FIU and so. The FIU has been functioning efficiently. I mean, it's taken us from being grey listed and blacklisted, and we're now better off than countries like Trinidad and those things like that. So we're not talking about FIU. I'm sure you know. I have not heard, well, maybe correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't heard any complaints about the integrity of the FIU and their investigation and their monitoring, as opposed to what you're talking about, SOCU and investigation.
Well, I only brought up.
I just want you to paint this whole a broad brush, because
correct.
Some of your viewers may not know the difference between FIU and SOCU.
And I only brought up the FIU because you mentioned that there are so many, there are a couple of persons in the country that cannot account for their wealth. And so that's where the FIU comes in, because regardless of who they are, they have to have transactions out there. They cannot just sit on their money.
So right. So, but that's what quite a lot of them are doing, because they are sitting on the money and those things and that. But all of the suspicious transactions I would suspect are already being flagged, and I'm sure if they try to move it wholesale, they will be caught. So. But the FIU, don't digress. The FIU, I think, is doing a credible job. I don't want us to say that they are not. Your question was the effectiveness of SOCU, and I would tell you, and I would join to say I am disappointed as well, because I mean there are things which I know and which I my ministry would have forwarded on to SOCU, but you just forwarded it on. And obviously, you're hoping that, like anybody, if I forward you on, please have a look at this, because this I do deem to be very suspicious. You would hope that they had the skills and resources, and they do, and they did. However, some of the, as I said, and I always want you to, I always remind people, I don't point fingers, but the head of SOCU was not pointed, was there before, and. Yes, he was there before. He's no longer there. He's there before the government transitioned, and he is now being accused of improper actions and those things like that. So I mean, it all questions that if SOCU actually ever functioned efficiently.
Right. What about the other arm, SARA? I mean, they're supposed to be recovering state assets, but I guess no state assets were stolen. Is that it?
No, they're actually embroiled in court.
Okay.
They have several court cases. And one thing I can tell you, is that when you want to get away with anything, you go to the court in Guyana, man. It takes ages to pass through court. So therefore, they're in court every day, as far as I know. They have special prosecutors and those things like that. So they're broad cases. They're broad cases, but none has reached a sense of a decision. And once again, that has nothing to do with the government. If the cases were so weak, as persons were saying, are so frivolous, you'd have thought that the courts would have thrown them out by now, but they haven't.
But let's give the judiciary a big amount of kudos and praise here. Look, over the past 10 years, I will say, the judiciary has really become more efficient, become more, cases are going through the courts quicker. The judges have become better managers at ensuring that cases are dealt with in a forthright manner. So I find it, I've been there a little bit myself. I've been dabbling in laws, a little bit. So I find it strange that, the government cases may not be handled with the kind of alacrity that you want it to. But also, talking a little bit more about the whole perception and realities of corruption. What's this thing with thousands of acres of land being shared out to various persons in government employ?
That's all fake. Well, but from what I know, that's fake news. I saw a fella with big headlines. He was awarded 3,200 acres of prime property in Georgetown. and it was actually trying to get his account to the papers, his old ladies, his mother's house lot was 3,200 square feet. So you know, what I mean, there is you see these. I see these things. I see that a person took one of the newspapers and one for the claim that these are acres, that these large amount of acres, but they let's talk about, when we talk about fake news and those things like that, we see several of these accusations coming up, and I can tell you. Lands and surveys, from my knowledge, when they give out a agricultural lease, they give you the blocks are generally, even in suits, like 100 acres. You know that, Yoke. But of course, now in this heightened season, 100 acres in a country that has 2 point something billion acres, you say 100 acres, it makes the news. But that's the standard block that they've been giving out for agriculture purposes in on the highway. As far as I know, you know, I mean, a house lot is I mean, in the highway, it's an acre. But when you see somebody gets 100 acres, oh my gosh, I mean, it sounds along like that.
But why should it be? I mean, I hate to belabor the point, but look, if David Patterson is fully employed as a minister, being paid by the public servants, being paid to do a full-time job by the public servants, why should the money we are paying David Patterson then be used, and his office being used to gain 200 acres of land somewhere? I mean, aren't you busy enough being a minister and being and making me confident of my investment?
Yeah, I obviously would take it that you're just making an example there when you use David Patterson.
Yeah. Sorry to the viewers out there. David, I don't know that he has been implicated in anything. Let me say this. I just use that as an example.
But I take it as that but I don't know any minister that would have been awarded 200 acres of land. I mean, I don't know any minister being more than 2 acres in land. I know government ministers are employees as well. I know that, you know, I mean, that I can tell you several persons that the presidential candidate on the other side, I mean, he got some luxury places in Lenora. The past president, he was a president, and he got some seaside front of things. And you know what I mean. And all I'm saying is that you know what I mean, that we shouldn't start saying it out that is unless you would agree with me that they were doing some corrupt practices. You can't just start throwing things if somebody buys a house lot or so. But I don't know anybody who would have received 200 acres of land on this minister would have done that.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. I mean, from my
I'm certainly going to get some of the information because I'm receiving some inbox stuff here, but I don't want to put you on spot. I mean, we're discussing politics in general tonight. Minister, here's one of the things that I can tell you that's been happening, and this is aside from the corruption and everything else. What I can promise you is that whoever is in government, a new civil society is being shaped as we speak. There are a number of persons in civil society, yours truly included. We're looking at creating a new level of civil society that will be holding government accountable. In the past, it used to be left to opposition parties. It used to be left to various political personages and lawyers and so forth to hold. Now we are creating can your government, if you were to win the next election, stand to that type of scrutiny?
Well, I would like to see. So first, I would like to say though that that's an absolutely positive move by if you are going to do that, and if you are going to be obviously objective, right? If you're going to say that we are here just as a civil society organization for the betterment of the country without any hidden agendas. Unfortunately, Yogi, you know what I mean? Because I myself am going to ask you, who is civil society? Because we've been hearing civil society, this word bandied around all the years. I mean, but civil society is just somebody now who's not in government. So if I demit office today, tomorrow I could say I'm a member of the civil society, but everybody will view me, right? Be a part of a political apparatus. I mean, so when you say to persons civil society are getting together, there's always a suspicion that there's a motive behind
Correct.
civil society. So we haven't defined who is civil society. I mean, as long as you're not in government, I mean, and then in Guyana, I mean, I would like to say, dead serious, it's hard to say. It's hard, almost hard to put a spin on a political organization. You know, I mean, you will,
Correct.
the private sector commissions and those things like that, when it suits them, they will say they're apolitical. And then as soon as one of the members jumps out, they say, oh, well, that's his constitutional right. But he was a leading stakeholder, leader of, he or she would be the leader of that organization. But then they want to wear both hats at the same time. So when you say a civil society, you may want to define for me and the viewers who they could consider a person that would be in civil society. And then,
and I agree with you, because you know, the notion of private sector has been politicized. The notion of private sector, I believe, as long as a private sector as a unit is members and heads of those units are beneficiaries of largesse of the state, they're not independent and they cannot speak for the wider civil society. Minister, let's take a quick commercial break and we'll be back in a couple seconds.
January marks 1 year since Globespan 24x7 embarked on this initiative to offer a platform that brings in all sides, all points of view, and all concerns. Viewers in Guyana and across the world are participating in discussions that are bringing to light issues relating to social, economic, and political matters that have been plaguing our nation. Globespan's platform offers Guyanese to express their concerns and discuss solutions in the political realm, thereby addressing the polarized situation. Discussions also include social ills, such as alcoholism, domestic violence, and suicides that have been plaguing the people. The platform also mitigates the brain drain by having speakers that live in Guyana and across the world participate in these discussions. This concept will avail a broader view for the benefit of all Guyanese, so Globespan needs your support to offset the expenses. Kindly contribute by clicking the link in the description to help support these programs.
And we're back. Minister, let me ask you this first as we return from the commercial break. Your government has been said to be the most top-heavy government in the history of independent Guyana. What's your comment?
Well, I mean, you have to define top-heavy. I mean,
the most ministers.
No, I would take the junior ministers are just supporting staff. You know, I mean, I think there are 15 ministries. 15 ministries. You could check them, and I list them. I mean, I just came out of a negotiation whereby it's 15 ministries that we have. Obviously, what you have is some of them, like my ministry, we have a junior minister, and the idea behind the junior ministers obviously was to experience youth diversity, so that obviously that, I mean, I don't consider myself old, but obviously we have to pass on. You have to remember, that Guyana hasn't had a tradition of government changes.
But you typically have 28 ministers. I mean, whether you call them senior minister or junior minister, they're 28 ministers of government, or more, is it?
No, they're not 28 ministers of government. I can't remember the exact moment. I know that there are 15 senior cabinet ministers.
Mm-hmm.
15 senior cabinet ministers.
So you don't consider junior minister as a minister?
Pardon?
You don't necessarily consider junior minister as a minister of government?
Yes, no. So they try to mean in other places you call them, in any other government you've been used to. If you go in the UK,
mm-hmm.
you have ministers within as a norm. It's just that we in Guyana have not exercised it before.
Mm-hmm.
We became on, so therefore obviously it's new to you, new to the people, so they make it feel it's top heavy. But in every country there's ministers within, and parliamentary secretaries, ministers of state, ministers without portfolio. And
but the reason I ask you this,
that's a similar sort of system we set up.
The reason I ask you this, because a lot of people feel, I mean, like with any government, a lot of people feel that your government has fallen into the norm as you might want to put it, to give benefit to the boys and girls, the loyal ones.
But no, but that's a really thing, because you don't have to be a minister to get benefits. You know what I mean? Like you should know that.
Well, let's put it this way. Look, your ministers or your cabinet or however you classify them, you give yourself a salary increase shortly after getting into office.
Correct.
And you recently give yourself a salary increase. This last increase is seen to be to give yourself an increase so you don't do it immediately after the elections if you win. What's your comment about it?
Well, you're absolutely incorrect. Absolutely incorrect, Yogan. And for a man as meticulous as yourself, I'm surprised that I missed it. There's been one salary increase, one single salary increase, 2015 for president, prime minister, ministers, parliamentarians. There has not been another salary increases for that band of officers. The instrument that you saw, that they started in December, that is not for these constitutional holders, which are ministers and those things. So there'll be no increase, right? No increase whatsoever for ministers, prime ministers, members of the opposition, leader of the opposition, speaker, since 2015. Absolutely none. So once again,
thank you for the correction. Thank you for the correction. Let me ask you this question. If I were to take a David Patterson from 2014, 2013, looking at the employ of the current government, if you were in opposition and you're looking at the current government as it is, would you be opposing to them, or would you want to join them? Take that 2014 version of David Patterson and look at the salaries of ministers, look at some of the perceptions, as you say, and the realities that's been happening.
That is a question, normally, Yogan, in all seriousness, I'm normally a modest person, right? The 2014 David Patterson's earning way more than the 2020 David Patterson, right? And you would know there's no secret whatsoever, and it's common knowledge that I refused a job as a minister because I obviously felt that the remuneration was absolutely inadequate for me, because at the time in 2015 I had 2 kids going to university at the same time, and remuneration obviously. So that's why I say it is the perception and the reality is, the government that we went into, they were other benefits. Of the book benefits came from the Lotto Fund that were ascribed to ministers, and we said absolutely not. Absolutely not. We're not going to do that. We would like everything to be on the books and those things like that. It wasn't sustainable. That is why persons could have existed. Yeah. Persons could have existed with the salary there, because there are several off the book things which we said we could not. So the 2014 David Patterson, right? 2014 David Patterson and 2020 David Patterson, it may look so, people may see so, but definitely not a reality.
Well, let's move away from that scenario a little bit. Let's go to something. Let's come to the AFC. I know that you're a very senior person in the AFC, and tell us a little bit about. There's still a perception out there that Comrade Ramjatan will not be the Prime Minister if the APNO AFC coalition wins the next general elections.
All right, let me start off on the first perception that is wrong. The if is wrong. I'm supremely confident that we've done, and the electorate will hear our message. The point has always been, right, and you are personalizing it. From the point from the Alliance for Changes has always been that we must have the right to name the prime ministerial candidate. In this election season, you have said, it's Comrade, and the party has voted and selected Comrade Ramjatan. But the fundamental point, which
it's the party, right?
It's the party's right to. So if Mr. Ramjatan is not the prime ministerial candidate, that would mean the Alliance for Change has made that decision. not to put him up. So it's a totally different. Everyone never stepped back to say what the principle that we were fighting for, principle that the AFC has stood for and always stood for, is that the Alliance for Change has the supreme and ultimate and sole right to name our prime ministerial candidate, just like APNU has the sole right to name their presidential candidate.
Okay.
So, as I said, I stay away from names. The Alliance for Change we've had their national conference with the highest body, and they had a process and they have selected someone. But that is just tangential as opposed to the principle which is enshrined, right, in a signed document called the Revised Commonwealth Accord.
And I have to push you on this one, and the AFC would have selected Kemra Ramjatan as its candidate, right?
Correct.
So I think that therefore the argument is moot that if the APNU AFC coalition was to win the next general election, Kemra Ramjatan will be the prime ministerial candidate.
Correct. It's a moot argument.
And to our viewers out there, let me apologize. I know that tonight we had slated both Kemra Ramjatan and David Patterson to be on our program, but Mr. Ramjatan could not have been here due to some other engagement. I think he's speaking somewhere in Berbice or something like that, but he has some other engagement. I'm not sure where it is. So
I offer apologies on his behalf. So I'm a poor substitute, but
no. Let me thank you. Let me thank you for being here. In fact, he was very confident that you will handle the program better than he could, or in addition to him. So, Minister, let me move again on to the political scenario. There have been a lot of new parties, brand new kids on the block. What's your thoughts? Do you think that your coalition would be affected by these new parties?
Well, look, first and foremost, new parties are absolutely welcome. And it would be hypocritical of me or anyone in the Alliance for Change for us to decry new parties, because we were birthed as a new party. So therefore, it's hypocritical for us to even think that we don't like them. I like them. I don't think it would affect our electoral prospects, the new parties. These are really, and everyone has their choice to make. A lot of these parties, you see, they start off quite well, but as you come down to the real, let's say, nuts and bolts, you have to sit down to see how realistic their chances are. Mm-hmm. I'm impressed. I was impressed that at least 7 of them made it past GECON scrutiny, because obviously I know we struggled initially in 2006. And let me digress a bit. The GECON today, I hear people have started even saying that they don't express the confidence in GECON, but the GECON today versus the GECON of 2006 is chalk and cheese. The GECON today are more accommodating. They for new parties, they do everything. They help you along on those things. And in 2006, we had to fight tooth and nail to get in to qualify. In 2006, there's something I don't think would ever happen again, is that GECON, as we sit here, would never allow a political party knowingly take a seat when there's a mistake. I am confident that the GECON that we have here, with the commissioners that we have here, but GECON of 2006 did that. So the new parties, right?
Would it affect? Do you feel it could affect the APNU AFC coalition?
It affects both sides. If they do draw votes, I would like to think they'll draw votes equally from both sides. Both sides of the thing, not only APNU AFC, because obviously you by saying only APNU AFC, you're making the assumption that the people in the PPP vote for PP are not independent minded.
No. I'm going to ask them the same question when I talk to them too. So.
Well, I think that's all that you mean, that they're persons who they may want to support. But obviously, I don't think it would affect our electoral prospects whatsoever. But I do welcome them. And
what about the joiner list? What about the joiner list? Because this is the first time in recent history that a joiner set has happened.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, I mean it is a novel way. It is a novel. Thing. I doubt it will pan out for much.
Okay.
But I do wish them good fortune and good success. I know as a party, I know that we have said to our people, do not attack them. That's not what we are. So therefore, they're new. They're breath of fresh air. You don't attack them. I mean, obviously, when you go on social media, that's a sort of a free for all. But I know none of our speakers, none of our leaders has said anything about these new parties because it's your constitutional right to have
Well,
a.
I had Lennox Schumann a week ago. Well, I had to join the three parties from the join the list a week ago, and Lennox Schumann is quite confident that the work he is doing will attract the votes of the indigenous peoples and a lot of other peoples from the hinterland communities. Now, I know that there would have been meetings between Schumann and your government. Has the APNU AFC government or party coalition, have you opened your arms to the other parties?
No, we're always open to the other parties. I mean, and this is something that in our accord, our very first accord. I mean, I know that there are certain journalists would say that we offered at the Alliance for Change, we offered civil society the broad. There is a clause in there that says, and it remains there, that we are open to cabinet positions from civil society. Right. Other political parties is quite a different matter because obviously there is your ideology and those things like that.
Right.
But we're open to have discussion because there is no single repository of ideas.
You mentioned the accord. Is the accord a legally binding document?
It's a morally binding document. It's a morally binding document. I mean, obviously, the persons would have signed to it. I doubt anybody morally would survive if you, as a politician, or you're intact as a politician, or your integrity would remain intact.
I don't know that morality and politics go hand in hand anymore.
Well, they do. Not for all politicians, I can tell you, but for some. I mean, particularly the president, I would like to think, I would like to think for myself, Kamraj, and some of us, that morality and integrity means quite a lot to us personally.
But I can come back with a rejoinder there. Look, I mean, I've heard the parties speak on your platform. Engagement has been about integrity, but let's take integrity to another level. I mean, a majority of persons from the coalition parties and coalition has not presented their assets to the Integrity Commission.
Well, I mean, that is one of the things which I do hope that the Integrity Commission could actually publish, because I am not because I keep because the people I asked, they said yes, they've done it. I would have submitted mine, but what a lot of persons have been saying, and this is not now, how difficult it is to do a complete submission. And you would know that our financial years ends in December. They ask you to give your, and this I have fallen victim of this here myself. They ask you to give your financial statement at the end of the 30th of June every year. So therefore, and what I do all my banking online. So I would get a printout of my anytime I get a printout of my bank statement and include that and those things, that is not acceptable. And you of course would ask why not,
right?
And I've been asking why not,
right?
So I give you another example. So when you hear persons haven't submitted, you have to that's why I would like the Integrity Commission to clarify that. Another example, you have to give a property valuation of your property. So I would have done one in 2018. I have done nothing to the House in 2019. So I submit in my last year evaluation. That is not acceptable. So when they say to somebody that they haven't submitted, it has to be qualified. If they haven't submitted anything at all, if they haven't, they're absolutely wrong. But if you say but you haven't submitted, but you haven't complied, I can see happening because the laws, the Integrity Commission Act hasn't kept up with modern.
Okay. But there are two things there, and if you want to advise me, I'd be happy and I'd be obliged. I know that myself included with members of civil society, all our viewers, for example, we will all pool resources and monies together to give it to the Integrity Commission so they could publish the list of defaulters, because they're saying they don't have money to publish the list. That's one. But two, I find it strange that persons cannot comply with the law. I mean, you in government would expect us to comply with everything. I'll tell you, we go through hell on a daily basis with the banks and with various persons. I have a GRA driver's license that says at the back or says somewhere in the agreement it can be used for transactions, but I can't use it. I can't, and we go through that. But you know what? We don't have a recourse like you to say, well, you know what?
No, there's no recourse. I'm trying to just. There is no recourse here. All I'm saying is that I started off by saying I would love the Integrity Commission to publish the defaulters and then publish what and how you are in default, so persons know. Because a very broad statement to say that you haven't submitted, and I was just giving you some examples how you could submit everything to the best of your knowledge, but because the Integrity Commission Act is so archaic, you could still be
right.
You asked a question of people pooling. The government, since this administration has taken a hands off. A constitutional agency is a constitutional agency. You can remember early in 2015, the court ruled specifically and explicitly that you cannot instruct, a government official cannot instruct a constitutional agency. So the Integrity Commission prepares a budget. They're made up of solid human beings and pillars of Guyanese society who pass by 2/3 majority in the parliament. So, and they make up, obviously they presented a budget which was approved.
Right.
So therefore, and it is not, and we would like to get past the stages whereby the chairman or chairperson or chairwoman has to come hand in hand to the government, which gives us now a bit of control, a leverage over what he does. So their monies are given to them on block. First thing, we don't apportion it. Then all constitutional agencies, soon the budget is passed, first month, you get the entire lump of money.
Yeah.
If unfortunately that they run short of money, I personally don't believe that they should be going around asking individuals or groups to subsidize them. I think that probably can tarnish the integrity or the independence of the body.
I don't disagree.
If we were not in this unique political situation, I'm sure what would have happened, like it happened the year before, is that we would have had a supplementary budget, and they would have said this is among they are short of, and we would have given it to them. So you and other independent agencies say that they're giving them I don't support that. I think that they should be self-governing and self-regulating. They're constitutional, and we shouldn't be saying that we were willing to give them money to do something like that. It shows that they're not independent, and it questions, just like when we started off speaking about SOKU, it questions the integrity of that commission if they go this route, if you go that route.
But just as an aside, I mean, I agree with you on that. That's one good thing, that constitutional agencies get their monies en bloc without having to come hat in hand to either the National Assembly or to anywhere. They make their budgets and stuff like that. I can't help but throw this back at you, that I do know that you had to recently meet to release funds to GECOM itself. So, I know it may be something else, but, because it's election year and all of that.
But I can't allow that one to go unanswered.
Go ahead.
Budget for 2019 was passed in November of 2018. We, as a government, we started doing, complying with the law. The law says your budget is supposed to pass before the end of the year. We comply with it. So therefore, what GECOM 2019 budget did not have in elections, right? So to get elections, you had to go back to do that. So therefore, it wasn't a question of us holding on any money. They submitted their budget, and that was approved by the Parliament. Right. For them to get extra money, because of the uniqueness, the unique situation, you have to go back to give them money. So it's not as though we were in any way holding them back.
What was the AFC as your party? What was the AFC's thinking from December 2018, when that no confidence motion was passed, through all of these all of the months when the government took the matter to CCJ and all of that?
Well, no, the AFC has always said, listen to me, we are on the side of the law, right? We said, oh, the no confidence motion is passed, and there's a process, right? And to believe me, I cannot sit here and say, oh, well, we don't believe it, somebody should appeal. There's appeal, a legally binding appeal. And there was an appeal, and when they did the appeal, it went through the due process, right? I think that, and the AFC, and I think probably even the government was expecting that GECOM would have said to us that you're ready in last year, but they're not. And one of the things that I know, because in 2006 when we came in, when our very first election, I don't know, Yogi, if you can recall this, we had a very strange situation where there was private civil society organizations saying no verification, no elections. And then and one of the issues that they had in 2006 is if people will recognize the election, the results of the election, because of this whole movement that was happening when the Alliance for Change was formed. And we stated very categorically that we will last contest an election, and there's nothing that we see is manifestly wrong with it. We will always recognize the results of the election. So we were always particularly keen that if GECON, always give GECON, always, irrespective of the amount of times that GECON, Alliance for Change, has carried GECON to court 4 times. Won 3, and we lost 1 on a technicality. So therefore, we've always said, as long as we go into the elections, we respect GECON. If GECON says that they cannot hold a credible elections, right? I know what you can cry, and we can speak about it if they should be ready or they should not be ready. The Alliance for Change will always say that people must accept the elections. If GECON, the person administering it, right? You can dissect their decision. If GECON, who is the person the entire country is given the authority to run election, if they say that they cannot hold a credible election until X date, I think that it is incumbent on us as leaders to accept that.
But from an independent, from an outsider's perspective, isn't it fair for us to say that you are the cause for that? Being in the government, you appointed unilaterally a chairman of GECOM that was not within the confines of the law, and the process of GECOM not being ready was your own doing.
Well, that is what you call now this determined, because at the time it was ruled. It passed through the courts in Guyana. It passed through the courts in Guyana. The 2 courts in Guyana, they did not say there was nothing illegal about it.
No, I think the lower court did have an objection to it, and I think the president had sought the advice of the Chief Justice, and the Chief Justice didn't agree but the president said he doesn't have to take her advice.
No, but it went through a process, right?
Uh-huh.
At the time in the process, that was the decision that they thought that the appointment of the GECOM chairman was just and legal, and so therefore, obviously, and the CCJ said it's not, so that we have a new chairperson in place, right? So I mean, but that is part and parcel of several other things. I mean, GECOM is an institution; it's not just one person, right? And we reside our trust and faith in the entire GECOM, as not only the commissioners but the bodies, the workers, and those things like that. And if they say to you that they cannot forget, irrespective of the reason that they arrive at the decision, irrespective if you think it's my government or not, if the body that runs elections say to you, we cannot run a credible and acceptable elections until this date.
Right.
Are you supposed to force them because there's a mistake on my part? I made a mistake. My government said that we appointed somebody. You said it now turned out because of that appointment. Are you supposed to say to, well, GECOM, because we made a mistake or because we appointed somebody incorrectly, you are now forced to have election tomorrow?
Right. I get you. I get you.
And will you and you have to ask persons there. I mean, we can go around and beat around the Marbury bush as that you would. You have to ask persons, all these 7 parties that are contesting the general election, if they would have accepted the results, and if they're supportive to accept the results, if that was the route that we had to take.
Understood. But I mean, I don't want this to be another, another discussion point. But let me say this in passing, and of course you can respond. When GECOM in early 2019 said they're not ready, or they won't be ready for another year, eventually when GECOM became ready, the amount of literal work it did to be ready was nothing. It could have been ready early on under the previous.
In all due respect, I started off talking about the independence of constitutional bodies, right?
But it's our role to assess them.
GECOM is a constitutional body. It's run by a commission. It is run by a commission. So if you either decide that they're independent or not, you either want us to say, and I hope you don't go there, that as government we are supposed to instruct GECOM.
But what I felt, what I feel is that you have impeded GECOM's progress.
Are you questioning the competence of GECOM?
I have been. Over the past chairman, I have been publicly questioning his competence.
Well, I wanted to know that I have the utmost respect for GECOM. They have a difficult task, particularly in the
not this chairman. In the past, I did question their competence.
Yes, but how can you divorce that? When you start to do that, you start to question probably the integrity of everything of an institution that you hope that you hope and you have to believe that will deliver credible elections, which all will accept.
I agree with you, but you see,
when you start to say and dissect, I like GECOM, this GECOM and that GECOM. You know what I mean?
No, but
you bring in a subjectivity. That allows you to say that this decision was made this previous chairman.
That is so.
Like that.
What happened is how do you compare this GECOM to the GECOM of the 1970s? How do you compare this GECOM to the GECOM of before? I mean, it's the same constitutional body that acted with different interest.
Exactly. But we moved on from there. We've moved on from 1992, we've moved on from 2006, we've moved on. Listen to me, right? We've moved on, we've made changes, to several things and so forth. So you have to have faith in the institution. If not, going to an election is a moot. Because obviously if you don't trust it that GECOM can do it, it is no use we go to elections because one side or the other will not accept the results, and that I think would be the worst thing possible.
I think where GECOM came under a lot of negative views, Our constitution is clear that GCOM should always be ready. But you know what? Let's take a quick commercial break. When we come back, I want us to talk about if APNU AFC were to win the next general election, what's ahead? What can we view differently ahead compared to now? So let's go for a quick commercial break and we'll be back in a couple of seconds.
Globespan's professional platform is now available for rental. Create your own content, promote your business, and reach hundreds of thousands of viewers in Guyana, United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom. Globespan gives you the ability to interact with viewers and guests to reach the multitude. Contact sales at globespan247.com for more information.
Support Globespan 24/7 initiatives by sponsoring our programs. Our goal is to bring all sides to the table, and with your help, this can become possible. With your support, we can shape a greater nation together. Contact sales at globespan247.com for more information, or inbox us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn.
And we are back live. We are here with our guest, Minister David Patterson, who has also been a very senior executive of the AFC and of the APNU AFC government. Minister, let's talk a little bit about the future. If APNU AFC were to win the next general elections, what would Guyanese be looking for in terms of your strategies, your plans? Pointed question to you are, what's the view of the oil contracts? And two, and I'm going to quote Annette Arjun and her concern here, what's the take and concerns with environment and climate planning?
Right. So now, and this is one of the questions where I think you have to put it in context. I'm the Minister of Public Infrastructure, and I am tasked to do very specific issues. And I will tell you, even if I had the best contract or the worst contract, the needs for infrastructure needs for this country remains the same. You have to get cheaper, more reliable electricity, better roads. I have to protect our environment, our sea defenses. We have to expand the infrastructure so that we can get better access from in our interior. So from Ministry of Public Infrastructure, my personal perspective, I have to prepare for what is coming. Right now the energy demand is increasing 7% per year, per annum. The passenger inflow is increasing 13 to 14% per annum. There are about now 12 to 15,000 new vehicles on the road. There are in the maritime sector, we have every day supply vessels. You have 24 supply vessels. In 2016, 2015 when we came in, there were 2 helicopters. We have about 16 operating now. So when you ask me about oil and oil contracts and those things like that, my answer is pointed. The demands of the country remains the same, are proceeded. So from my point of view, from my ministry, I am working towards that, because obviously persons want cheaper electricity, even if they have the best deal possible or not, right? Mm-hmm. Oil deal or not. So therefore you have to take that in the context. So I am now working on an infrastructure development plan to move the country where it has to be, to get that in the next 5 to 10 years. So, and what I would say is that the contract we have here, if you say it is the bottom of the ceiling, in the sense that, to me, I can't get lower than that. We already have it. If you say, if I could get higher, that's a moot point. I mean, you can argue that and those things. I am catering from what we have now. It's more than adequate for me infrastructurally to move from where the country is right now, right, to where it should be. Right. So that is my position as a minister of infrastructure.
Right. But in terms of strategy, does the APNU AFC slate, does the APNU AFC current government, think that the oil contracts needs renegotiating? I mean, 1% royalty from a contract, it's actually
2% royalty, right? And one, as I'm saying, that's what I'm saying from my perspective. I mean, you are, is a glass half full or half empty, right? But from my perspective, there's water in the glass,
But,
and I have to, right? I can't, and I have to ensure that the wheels of the country keeps rolling over, irrespective of what it is. If the glass is half empty or half full, there's water in the glass. I have to ensure that the water doesn't leak out of the glass. I have to ensure that person drinks.
But then it means you were saying you will accept substandard stuff because you got something.
It means to say that from my perspective, right? I have some very unique goals to achieve, and the goals and the demands that my ministry has to achieve will always be there, even if we have oil or not.
What about our children? What about our grandchildren? What are they going to harvest from the oil? I mean, there's nothing left.
Well, what about you, York? Do you want to have stable, reliable electricity?
Of course.
And isn't that my duty to give you stable, reliable electricity?
Of course, but I'm talking more. Yeah, I'm talking more from a strategic perspective, not just infrastructure. And I guess you're going to come back.
So you're asking me, and you have the Minister of Public Infrastructure on. If you want, if you would like someone else, you can send for them, but I have to answer from my ministry,
okay.
Right? So I have to answer from my ministry. And that has been my laser focus, becoming myopic. And I know the person will say, I mean, the simplistic answer, but that's the reality of where I come from.
Okay, got you. Now let's talk some other strategies and plans in terms of your ministry and your portfolio then for the future. I mean, you promised us good electricity. 5 years have gone by. You just mentioned electricity. Telecoms have been liberalized or haven't been freed up as yet because that's still negotiating 5 years later. And there's some other, as you know, electricity and telecoms and roads and all of that, they're critical to a country's development.
Yes, and absolutely yes. So we promised I could start on the, I wouldn't even delve into the telecommunication because you know it better than me. I didn't realize until I didn't me, so it could be a fault of mine, that the contract was renewed with GT&T for another 20-something years. I never realized that. Maybe it's my omission, but it is a terribly difficult thing to break an existing contract, and everyone sits down and they see how the struggles are, and they're talking about Exxon, but look at the struggles that we're facing, the legal challenges that we're facing to break a GT&T's contract, right? Which is they're claiming it's a legally binding contract signed by a legally authorized government. So I'm just telling you how terribly difficult it is, but we're working towards it.
Right. I honestly don't think you have used all the resources at your disposal.
Well, that's of course, once again, as I said, you know more about the telecommunication, but I'm just making on a very superficial, high level, how difficult it is to break a legally binding contract with an international organization, and I think you understand that quite well, and then you're the one person that should be leading the conversation when you talk about renegotiations and those things, because you know what we're up against, right? You know that
I can tell you you're up against nothing.
You have seen the 8th floor stories of lawyers. You probably get them all. Anyway, but moving on to electricity. It's no secret that the electricity, our electrical supply is not where we want it, not where I want it, not where the government wants it, but not where the people of Guyana wanted it. But the truth is that, and I will say this to you, the truth is that we, as a government, as a people, I'm talking globally, past administration, my administration, we haven't spent enough money on the unsexy part of electricity, which is the transmission and distribution line. Anybody in Georgetown, I use an example, South Ramville, the lines that were laid in 1970s, the poles that were laid in 1970s, they're still there bringing you electricity. And just because of the mindset that we have and had, I would say, a very poor maintenance maintenance record culture. So what has happened, and what was being done is you just stick generating sets, new generated sets, but the transmission was very fragile, continues to be fragile. I mean, we've invested a lot of money to try and do that, and we're getting there slowly. I mean, of course, not fast enough for everyone. We're getting there slowly, but that has been the major Achilles heels of GPL, the T&D. We'll be investing, of course, in more modern plants soon. There's natural gas offshore, associated gas that will be coming down as well. But the backbone of it, it's not the sexy part of it. You don't make money on T&Ds, on changing wallable poles and wires and those things like that. It's at the back of your yard, and bird vines grow on it, and no one but looks at it because it's out their eyesight. But you think about it, I don't know where you're living in now, but since you've moved there, have they, unless a pole has fallen, have they sent in change any cables? Unless the transformer is blown, have we been able to change it out? I mean, all these things have life spans. So you're in South, and the culture that we have inherited was that you don't change it until it's broken. We've changed that, and we've made the turn, and obviously having made the turn and recognize it and recognize our problems, we are working towards it. So the future is bright.
Right. You have a distribution transmission problem. So you have your ability to deliver electricity to your consumers is stymied, yet the cost of electricity is prohibitive compared to other countries in this area, in this hemisphere.
Listen to me, right? When I took over, when I got the electricity sector, 30%, you should know that, and you as a former CEO would know, 30% of production is lost, 30%. So therefore, for every 100 megawatts of power we produce, you have to buy the fuel and those things like that. I was only recouping 70% of the money. So obviously, to make it sustainable, that is why the cost of electricity is so high, because there's a 30%, 30 megawatts, for every 100 megawatts that I produce, 30% is being given away free or stolen, etc., etc.
Right.
Free.
But it means you're charging your customers. It means you're charging those who you find. You're supercharging those for the deficiencies of the system.
That is absolutely correct. And I want to tell you this, and I tell you this: the largest of that 30 megawatts. Let's use back the 100 megawatts example. 30 megawatts are stolen. The largest persons that steal that are the commercial entities.
Mm-hmm.
The moms and pops and the people that throw up the wires and those things like that steal of that. They steal no less than 6 or 7 megawatts. 26 and 24 is the big producers, the big person that you would look at and say, and that would sit down and say, "Oh, I'm part of civil society," and they would tell you they say to you, "Oh, the cost of electricity is prohibitive," and those things. Yet they are the biggest commercial theft.
Right.
Our largest thing. And when you find them, and you have found them, they hire a smart lawyer,
mm-hmm.
and they have you in court for weeks and months and those things like that.
But you were supposed to have the best of lawyers. But aside from that point, I mean, I will say this, that, Guyanese, I mean, we have always had problems, and this doesn't go to you as a government or minister, it's just generally speaking, we have always had problems with our service sectors and the way people are being treated and the way people are being dealt with by service reps and so forth. I must say that, you go into some of the areas, we are improving the way we are dealing with members of the public. I only wish that we could deal with the senior people in society far better. I mean, I look at the way some old people are being spoken to when they're in the lines at GPL and stuff like that, it's atrocious. But back to your.
I just want to endorse that. I just want to endorse that. You know, I mean, this is a really tough country to get old in, and this is nothing to do. And I would unanimously and endorse that difficulties of somebody, an aged person, getting by in Guyana.
Correct. But let's get back to the political discussion. So in terms of your slate, APNO AFC list. Give me what you said earlier about your laser focus on infrastructure. One would presume then that it's given that if APNO AFC were to win the next election, that you are going to be the next minister of infrastructure.
Well, the horse in front is a likely winner, right? So I would like to think that I am the horse in front, but obviously, you know, I mean, it's not nothing is given. Nothing is given for
maybe I should go complete my engineering degree and you know, compete with you.
I think you do a splendid job as well. You know, long as you're open-minded enough and you recognize, just as you have recognized that there's deficiencies in the system, and that you're willing to work.
Let's talk about engagement with how does the APNO AFC government plan to engage with other people in society? By that I mean, you know, we have seen all the push about race. I mean, I must not be too hesitant to bring this up here. That is comments, for example, by the PNC's chairwoman with regards to, and Lennox Schumann said it. I said it last week, and this is why I'm bringing it up. That you know, something was being derogatory was being said of the indigenous peoples and the way they do maths or something like that. Is there a mechanism that you guys would reprimand each other for things that you say that are not acceptable? I mean, when the minister said, you know, she wants people of her kind, for example, I mean, those are not acceptable statements, are they?
First and foremost, no derogatory statement, any race from anybody, any minister or a chairwoman, a chairperson is acceptable. It's not, I mean, obviously, so that no derogatory statements from any side, any race is acceptable, any leader or not. Obviously, I agree that as a leader, you are expected to operate at the highest standard. However, when we are commenting on matters, we should always look at the context, right? I'm not justifying any derogatory statements, right, by anyone. But I do think that certain things are taken out of context, and certain persons. I mean, I heard the leader of the opposition. And you're using the minister as an example. Why didn't you use the leader of the opposition as the example? He used the exact same words in the exact same thing. So it's context. But let me correct that. I have said so to him. I have said so on another forum about him, but you see, sir, you are the government. I am not assessing another government. I'm assessing you in government. And I agree with you that any person that uses a derogatory statement, racial slur, or anything, even to the ethnicity, your sexual orientation, and those things should be pulled up. However, what's good for one is good for all. Mm-hmm. I have not seen any article on the leader of opposition saying those things. So and if you're saying to me, if you say to me, because I'm government, I'm a higher standard than him as a minister, well, maybe you have your value. The conversation can go on, right? Because it is wrong. And I think the minister issued an apology, and she asked to listen to the whole thing. I haven't heard an apology from the leader of the opposition. And I haven't heard the social commentators, such as yourself, saying, why is the leader of the opposition saying these things? You have to hold all of us.
Let me correct you with that. I have been forthright in calling them out. I have been forthright on the same program. So as we're coming down to program time, you know, it's amazing how fast the time goes by. Your thoughts a year from today, if you were to if you were to win the elections, your thoughts of an APNU AFC government in a year from today, oil in place, oil revenues flowing, what would a 2021, 2022 look like under an AFC APNU government?
But first, I would say I'd have to couch that as a Guyanese, as a proud citizen of Guyana. I would hope that in 2021 that we're more inclusive and more tolerant to each other. You mentioned it in your open statement how deficit this election period is. I would hope that by 2021 that the mechanisms are in place for us to accommodate each other's views without, so that is a Guyanese that we are a more tolerant persons to ourselves, that we're more susceptible and accepting other persons' ideas. And that is for me personally, that I would love to see a 2021 where we all figure out that there's 800,000 of us here, probably another 800,000 in the diaspora, even if they all come back, 1.6 million persons. That is, and I want to put this in a context to say that we have 1.6 million if they come back, and Guyana is the size of Great Britain. So imagine 1.6 million persons trying to run a country like Great Britain. That is what the challenge that we have. Like it or not, we can have a great debate on contracts with persons or not, but the givens are we are an oil producing country. And with that comes certain development and certain dangers. It's my hope that by 2021 we accept that we have to move ahead of the curve and we work together.
Right.
400,000 of us on one side, and if my government is successful, 400,000 of us on one side can't do the job. We all have to do it together. So that's my hope as a Guyanese. As the Minister of Public Infrastructure by 2022, I would hope that you can drive over the Demerara Bridge, a river over high span bridge. I would hope that you can get from here to Mabura at least on a paved highway, that the persons in Kokwani and Ituni don't have to fear the rain, because the road is a fair weather, all weather road. I would hope that sales of, and all due respect to those guys, generator sales, personal per generator sales become only on a must-need basis, or we have cheaper, reliable electricity. I would hope that we can fly and travel cheaper between here and wherever we want to go, because there's more disposable income. By 2020, I would hope that we would have in our roads less carnage. We're building better roads, but we're still losing 125 good systems, and it's either the elderly or the young. Either the elderly or the young we use the majority of persons we use to road accidents. I would hope that the persons see Guyana for what we truly are. I mean, we're a gem. We're a really blessed country. We have no natural disasters, no hurricane, no seismic activities, and all we have are man-made disasters. So I'm hoping by 2022,
which we are, yeah.
By 2022, we decide, listen to me, there's so much space in this lovely, blessed country for all of us that we can sit down and live. I'm not saying that we got to get on, but we have to tolerate each other. Look, 2019, more persons for the first time in our history came to Guyana than they left. It always, that is cumulative. So people have always been leaving. 2019, more persons came to Guyana than they left, and it will continue. Then they will continue happening. Other persons are here, and you would know the business. One of they're coming and they're setting up shop here. They see us as great opportunities. I mean, people just selling.
Well, certainly. I mean, the whole world probably a lot of people from a lot of countries would try to come here, because, of course, we should be, in a far better place economic-wise than we were for the past 50 years. So, Minister, well, thank you so much for being here tonight. It's been a pleasure to have you. I'm certainly looking forward to our viewers out there Join myself and Annette Arjun and Dr. Trotz on Monday. We want to talk about environment. We want to have a look at what's been happening. As you know, every day so much millions of dollars are being burnt in terms of the emissions from the oil sector just being wasted. And so Monday we want to have a talk about the environment, and join us as we have that talk, because I will tell you, my vote will go towards the parties that are more concerned about our environment. My vote will go towards those who are going to talk about, you know, our contracts and the protection of Guyana and protection of stuff that we care for, and not just, you know, so, and I know that having our minister here tonight, that has been part of our conversation in terms of how do we look to the future. So, Minister, thank you for being here tonight. To our viewers out there, let me say thanks to you all for joining us. And let me also say thanks to Nohar, to Devin, to Kumar, and all those who have made this tonight program successful. We look forward to more of the same, and have a good night, everyone. Minister, good luck on the campaign trail, and good luck for the elections.
Yes, thank you very much, and do have a good night. Good night.
Thank you. Goodbye, everyone.